Good morning, students. So this is class 11th physics, chapter number 7, that is rotational motion, and lecture number 5. So today we'll be starting with rolling motion. Okay. So for example, when a wheel travels on a road, that is called a rolling motion because see, this wheel is moving forward as well as it is rotating. So that means translation plus rotation is called rolling. For example, a wheel rolling and moving forward on a straight road. Okay. So now we will see the velocity of this you can say wheel at various points. Okay, so I have chosen here 3 points. This is, let's say, P0, this is P1, and this is P2. Okay, so and this point is its center of mass, that is center of mass of the wheel. Now remember, there will be two velocities, one leading to translation motion and one leading to rotational motion. Okay, so let us suppose it is moving in forward direction with the angular velocity omega. Okay, so now first of all, let us talk about the point P0. See, we are assuming that there is no slipping. If there is no slipping, that means at every point, or you can say at every point of road, this point will remain at rest. Therefore, we can say because there is no slipping, therefore P0 always remains at rest. Okay, so that means overall velocity at P0 should be 0. Now, if we go forward upward to this point is center of mass. Now, center of mass is just moving forward with this wheel. That means it has some velocity which is leading to translation motion in forward direction. So, we will be calling it VCM, that is velocity of center of mass, which is responsible for translation motion of the wheel. Okay. Now, at any point P2, as I told you, at any point P2, I am assuming this to be P2 only, there will be two velocities, one which is leading to translation motion and one which is responsible for rotational motion. So this is VCM, this is VR, and resultant of these two will be V2. That is, V2 is the velocity at P2 and it has two components, one which is leading to translation motion and another one which is leading to rotational motion. So as you know, in rotational motion, V is R omega. So therefore here VR will be equal to R omega. Okay. Now come to the P0. As I told you, P0 is at rest. That means at this point VCM and VR should be equal and opposite. So we can say at P0, because it is at rest, so VCM and VR will be equal and opposite. From here, as you have calculated VR to be R omega, so VCM will come to be R omega. Okay, where R is the radius of the wheel. Similarly, at P1, that is this point. At P1, I am assuming the velocity is V1, but here also it will be due to two velocities. So V1 will be equal to VCM plus VR. That means VCM and VR both will be in one direction for P1. Okay, so VCM plus VR means R omega plus VCM is R omega and VR is also R omega. So velocity at P1 is 2R omega. So from here we have concluded the velocities at different points of the wheel. At P0, velocity will be R omega. At P1, velocity will be 2R omega. And at P2, velocity will be V2, which is resultant of these two. Okay. Now let us move forward. Okay, so the next topic is kinetic energy of rolling motion. So as I told you, rolling motion is translation motion plus rotation motion. So therefore, kinetic energy of rolling motion will be equal to kinetic energy due to translation plus kinetic energy due to rotation. Okay. Now you know kinetic energy due to translation is half mv square. We are taking VCM, that is velocity of center of mass, because as I told you, velocity of center of mass is responsible for translation motion. So KT will be half mvcm square, and kinetic energy of rotation you have calculated in your last lecture, that is plus half I omega square. So just to modify this, as you know VCM is R omega, I am assuming capital R to be the radius. Okay, so from here omega will come to be VCM upon R. Mark it second equation and put the velocity of put the value of omega in first equation. Okay, so here, and one more thing, we'll be putting this value in this one, plus we will be putting this also. I is equals to mk square, where k is your radius of gyration. So k is equals to half m vcm square plus half I, that is mk square, into omega square, that is vcm square upon r square. Okay, so from here, half m vcm square, this term can be taken out common. So you will be left with 1 plus k square upon r square. So this is the another form of kinetic energy of rolling motion in terms of radius of gyration, that is half m vcm square into 1 plus k square upon r square. Okay students, so we have studied now rolling motion and kinetic energy of rolling motion. Now we will be taking a particular case of a wheel rotating on a rolling on a inclined plane. Okay, so the next topic is motion of a solid cylinder rolling without slipping on an inclined plane. Okay, so we have taken an inclined plane at an angle theta. This is a solid cylinder which is rolling down with an angular acceleration of alpha. Okay, and we are assuming that there is no slipping. Okay, so first of all, see, again we will be resolving all the forces acting on this wheel. So as you know, its weight would be acting downward. So this is mg. If this is theta, this will also be theta. So you can just resolve mg. This will be mg cos theta. This will be mg sin theta. Normal reaction will be acting in upward direction, and here we have a force of friction because we are assuming this to be a rough inclined plane. Okay, so now what we will calculate? We will calculate the value of its linear acceleration, that is A, and this F, force of friction. Okay. So for that, as you know, we'll be again using equations of motion. So just equate R will be equal to mg cos theta. So this is your first equation. Second equation is mg sin theta, because see, it is moving in forward direction. So this will be taken as positive. So mg sin theta minus F is equals to ma. So we have these two equations now. Now see, here we are talking about rolling motion, that is we have torque. So let us see due to which forces we have torque. Okay, so abhi I'll explain it to you. You will see that torque is only due to force of friction, because R and mg are radial forces. Now to understand this, look here, see, at any point, at the center, this will be the direction of radius vector, right? This you know. Now if we talk about mg is also in this direction, R is also in this direction. Now you know the formula of torque is R cross F, that is A cross B, that is AB sin theta, that is RF sin theta. Now R is R, F is mg, and sin theta, that is an angle between them is 0. So that means torque due to mg will be 0. So therefore mg is a radial force. Similarly for R. So now again they are in opposite direction. So angle between them is 180 degree. So that means torque due to this normal reaction will also come to be 0. Okay. So by radial forces we means that they are acting along the direction of radius or anti-parallel to the radius. Okay. So both are the radial forces, therefore we have torque due to them 0. So only torque will be due to force of friction, because angle between R and F is 90 degrees. So torque is R cross F, okay, due to force of friction. Mark it first equation, okay, or leave it like this only, okay. And so this is the first equation of torque. Now as you know, torque is equals to I alpha, this you have studied. And as you know, A is R alpha, so alpha will be equal to A by R. So torque is IA by R. Now put these two equations equal. So from here, R cross F will come equal to IA upon R. Solving it, RF sin 90, as I told you, angle between them is 90 degrees, is equals to IA upon R. So from here, sin 90 is 1. Force of friction will come to be IA upon R square. Mark it third equation and put the value of this force of friction from third equation into second equation. So second equation is mg sin theta minus F, that is Ia upon r square, is equals to ma. Okay, so now from here you can easily calculate the value of acceleration, that is a. So ma plus Ia upon r square will come to be mg sin theta. So from here value of acceleration will come to be mg sin theta upon m plus I upon r square. So this is the value of acceleration. But now as we have considered a solid cylinder, now imagine yourself is if I have many discs and I keep one disc over another, what will be formed? A solid cylinder will be formed. For example, as I have told you about disk. Okay, so that means if a cylinder is rolling and if you have a side view of it, you will see as if a disk is rotating, right? So we can use the moment of inertia for a disk, and see, when the cylinder is rolling, it is rolling about an axis which is perpendicular to its plane and passing through the center. So we can use the same formula of moment of inertia, that is mr square by 2. This you have done in your previous lecture. Okay, so we are assuming here radius to be small r, so it will be m small r square by 2. So don't get it confused with normal radius, keep it as radius square. Okay, so now a will be mg sin theta into m plus keep value of I, that is mr square by 2 into r square, because here also I am taking mass to be small m and radius to be small r, so I have put those values here only. Okay, so take this one to be small m also. Okay, now from here, see, when you will solve it, this m will cancel out, r square will cancel out, so acceleration will come to be 2 by 3 g sin theta. Now as you can look here, this value of acceleration is less than g. So this is the value of acceleration, linear acceleration, when a solid cylinder is rolling on a inclined plane. Now as we have calculated, f is equals to Ia upon r square. Now we know the value of I, that is mr square by 2. We know the value of a, that is 2 by 3 g sin theta upon r square. So when you will solve it, you will get the value of force of friction to be mg by 3 sin theta. Again, this force is coming to be less than mg. So these are the values of acceleration and force of friction. Okay, now there is a condition for no slipping. Because see, we are assuming no slipping is there, that means this force of friction should be either less than or equal to mu r. Okay, so now as we have calculated f to be mg by 3 sin theta, this should be less than equal to mu and r is mg cos theta. Okay, so from here m will cancel out, mu will come to be greater than equal to 1 by 3 tangent theta. That means the minimum value of coefficient of friction is 1 by 3 tangent theta, so that there is no slipping. If mu is less than 1 by 3 tangent theta, then slipping will take place. Okay, so this is the minimum value. Mu should be either equal to 1 by 3 tangent theta or it should be greater than it. If it is less than it, there will be slipping. Okay. Okay students, so this completes your chapter. Now I'll be discussing the homework solutions. So let us start with the question number 8. Okay students, so I'll be discussing both the homework solutions of lecture number 3 as well as lecture number 4. Okay, so first is question number 8. So the question says a non-uniform bar of weight W, okay, is suspended at rest by two strings of negligible weight. Okay, so this is your rod or a bar which is suspended by two strings, okay, like this. The angles made by the strings are given. I am taking them to be theta 1 and theta 2. Okay, now the bar is of 2 meter long, that is the distance of this bar is 2 meters. So you have to calculate d of the center, calculate the distance d from the center of gravity of the bar from its left end. Okay, so as I told you, center of gravity is that point where the weight of the body acts and rotational torque is 0. That means we can use here rotational equilibrium. Okay, so this distance is given to be d. So this distance will be 2 minus d. So I have made another graph for this, or you can say diagram. Okay, so before that, see, because this is a string, in this direction there will be a tension, and in this direction there will be your tension. So I am denoting this by T1 and this by T2. Now if this is theta 2, this will also be theta 2, and if this is theta 1, this will also be theta 1. Now here again this is the bar, this is the center of gravity, this is D, this is 2 minus D. So when you will resolve this T2, this component will be T2 cos theta and this component will be T2 sin theta 2, theta 2. Because we are assuming this to be theta 2, right? Now this is theta 1, so this component will be T1 cos theta 1 and this component will be T1 sin theta 1. Now let us make the equations of motion. So because this is the center of gravity, now or you can see these two forces are equal and opposite. That means T1 sin theta 1 is equals to T2 sin theta 2, right? So from here T1 upon T2 will come to be sin theta 2 upon sin theta 1. Mark it first equation. Now for second equation, as I told you, this point is the point of rotational equilibrium. So we will be using net torque to be 0. So how to calculate net torque? See, this is the force and this is the perpendicular distance. So that is T1 cos theta 1 into D. This one will be equal to T2 cos theta 2 into 2 minus D. That is T2 cos theta 2 into 2 minus D. From here again T1 upon T2 will come to be cos theta 2 into 2 minus D upon cos theta 1 into D. Now you have two equations. Theta 1 and theta 2 is given to you in question. So you can easily calculate D from here. So that D will come to be 0.745 meters. Okay. Okay, so next is question number 16. It says, from a uniform disk of radius r, a circular section of radius r by 2 is cut out. The center of the hole is at r by 2 from the center of the original disk. Calculate the center of the mass of the resulting body. That is, it is given that there is a disk which has a radius of r. Now we have cut out a part of radius r by 2. So obviously see this is the original disk which had a radius of r. This is the part of disk which is cut out which has a radius r by 2. Okay, so let us assume the mass of this original disk is capital M. Okay, now to calculate center of mass, as you know, we have to choose some origin. So I am assuming this point to be origin. So this point will be r by 2, 0. So now see, you know the formula of center of mass is m1 x1 plus m2 x2 upon m1 plus m2. So we know m1 which is capital M. So first of all we will calculate m2, that is the part, the mass of this removed part. So for that we will be using unitary method. That is, you know, this disk has has area of pi capital R square. So pi R square has a mass of m. By using unitary method, mass per unit area will be m by pi R square. So that means this disk will be having, smaller disk will be having an area of pi into r by 2 square. So this much area will have a mass per unit area into into pi R square by 4. So pi R square will cancel out. So the mass of portion removed will come to be m by 4. Now we know the masses of the both. We know the coordinates of the both. We can easily calculate center of mass. But here is a very important thing in this. Because this mass is not present here. It is removed, right? So we will be taking this m by 4 as minus m by 4. I hope it is clear, because this mass of the disk is removed from it. So we will be taking this as negative. So therefore x will be m1 r1, that is m into 0. You can take x only because this is x-axis only. Plus m2, that is minus m by 4 into r2, that is r by 2 upon m1 plus m2. So solve it, you will get the x to be minus rm by 8 into 4 by 3m. So m will cancel out. So you will get x is equals to minus r by 6. That is, at this point your center of mass is lying. Okay. Okay, so next is question number 20. It says the oxygen molecule has a mass. See, all the values are given. I am just taking them to be variable. Okay, you can put them later. Okay, so the oxygen molecule has a mass of m and a moment of inertia of this about an axis through its center perpendicular to the line joining the two atoms. Suppose the atom suppose the mean speed of such a molecule in gas is v. Okay, it is also given 500 meter per second, and it is given that the rotational kinetic energy is equals to 2/3 of translation kinetic energy. Okay, then you have to find the average angular velocity of the molecule. Okay, so see, if I assume there are, as you know, in an oxygen molecule there are 2 atoms of oxygen. So if the mass of molecule is m, therefore the particular mass of the atoms will be m/2 and m/2. Let us assume that the separation between them is 2r. Okay, so now let us calculate center of mass about an axis which is perpendicular to the line joining them and passing through the center. Okay, so that will be I is equals to m/2. This distance will be r, that is r square, plus again m/2 into r square. So moment of inertia will come to be mr square. Now from here you can easily calculate radius, that will be come to be under root I by m. I and m both are given in question. So put the values, you will get the value of radius to be 0.61 into 10 to the power minus 10 meters. Now we will be using second thing which is given in the question, that rotational kinetic energy, that is half I omega square, is 2/3 of kinetic energy, or translation kinetic energy, that is half mv square. Okay, so now as we have calculated I is mr square. Okay, so just solve it, you will get omega to be equal to under root of 2/3 v square upon r square. Okay, so from here again you know v is given in the question, r we have just calculated. So angular velocity will come to be 6.7 into 10 to the power 12 radian per second. Okay, in question number 23, I am just giving you a hint. Conservation of angular momentum will be used, and as you know, conservation of angular momentum is I1 omega 1 is equals to I2 omega 2. So just use this, you will easily get the answer. Okay, so now I'll discuss question number 25, which says there are two disks of moment of inertia I1 and I2 about their respective axes and rotating with angular speeds omega 1 and omega 2. They are brought in contact face to face with their axis of rotation coincident. Calculate the angular, in first part you have to calculate angular speed of the disk system. Okay, so again here we will be using conservation of angular momentum. When they were rotating separately, then L initial will be I1 omega 1 plus I2 omega 2. But now see, when they are brought such that their rotation axis coincide with each other, that means they will now rotate with same angular velocity. So therefore L final, that is final angular momentum, will be I1 plus I2 into omega. So from these two equations, by using conservation of momentum, you can calculate omega will come to be I1 omega 1 plus I2 omega 2 upon I1 plus I2. Okay, so mark it. So this was to calculate in first equation, angular velocity you have calculated. In second part, it is asking, show that kinetic energy of combined system is less than the sum of the initial kinetic energies of the two disks. That is, we have to show that initial kinetic energy is greater than the final kinetic energy. So for that, let us calculate kinetic energy. So E initial will be half I1 omega square plus half I2 omega 2 square. And E final will be half I1 plus I2 into omega square. So we know value of omega from first part, put it here. Just solve it and calculate EI minus EF. That is initial kinetic energy minus final kinetic energy. That will come to be I1 I2 into omega 1 minus omega 2 square upon 2 I1 plus I2. I have not done the steps, but you have to do the steps. Okay, try it yourself. It is just the mathematical steps. I hope you will be able to do it, and this will be the final answer. Now as you can see, I1 I2 is positive, 2 is a constant, again this is positive, and square of something is also positive. That means EI minus EF will come to be positive, or you can say that means EI will be greater than EF. That is, there is a loss of kinetic energy in this particular case. Okay students, so these were the solutions of your homework lecture number 3 and 4. So your chapter is completed. Now you can do rest of the questions of your chapter. Thank you.